Hi, I'm Gary Johnson. I am the founder and publisher of BlackMenInAmerica.com, a very popular online magazine and website. With 6 days left before the 2024 presidential election, this website decided to officially endorse Kamala Harris for president. The show that you're about to watch will have a series of men discussing the presidential election as well as Kamala Harris for president. Enjoy the show. Welcome to the Thought Brothers. It's October 30th, 2024. This is a special show because we have a round table of men, and we're going to talk about the election. Today is a day that even surprised me. Early this morning, around 1 a.m., as a matter of fact, I released an official endorsement for BlackMenInAmerica.com, the website endorsing Kamala Harris. The reaction has been very, very positive. I've done 2 radio shows this afternoon, had a lot of positive feedback about Black men and our impact on this election. We have a table of men here. We also have people representing the Justice of Black Farmers Group. So we've got some pulse checks of people around different parts of the country. And so I just want to talk briefly about how any of you feel about BlackMenInAmerica.com, the website endorsing Kamala Harris. Anybody jump on in there?
It was the right thing to do. I think we need more visible Black men speaking to the world, not to us, we know, but to the world, that there's no question about who we support. Now, you can take some of the guys that Trump is trotting out on the stage, but we revoked their black card years ago. So I think it was a brilliant move.
I think it was a great idea. I'm glad you did it because it had to knock down this notion that some media person looked at some poll that found an anomaly. Oh, you have an African American supporting Trump and he's against Kamala Harris. They're supposed to support Kamala Harris. So who is this? They found an anomaly, and the media loves to turn an anomaly into a commonality so they could do multiple stories on it. But, I knew that that wasn't the case. I knew that they were just dealing with something that, Jan Sarr was probably, let me guess, a 32-year-old Caucasian that decided they were going to push the story maybe on CNN, and someone else picks it up from CNN, and everyone runs with it. It gets a few clicks, and they keep running with it. But there was never any real validity to this story that Black men were abandoning her because she was a prosecutor. Black men are supposed to hate prosecutors. Well, that may have come into play with some, but on a mass scale, no way. I mean, African-American men know that every major movement in this country involving us had women behind it. And this is another big movement, and we have someone involved that's quite capable.
Okay, thank you.
Well put. Ben, one thing about the media doesn't pick sides, it creates sides. That's the whole idea. And so what Ben is talking about is they created a side. It's a story, generates revenue. And by the way, they also are trying to set this up. If she doesn't win, it's you brothers didn't do it. Come on.
Okay. Anybody else?
Gary, as I've said many times on the show, one of the things that Chris Christie said early on in the election was, he doesn't put a lot of stock in polls, because I feel you can control a poll. I mean, if you want a poll and you want Black supporting this, then you do a poll in DC. But if you want a poll showing Blacks supporting Trump, then you do a poll in Indiana. You do a poll in Montana, where you got a handful of black folks. So I don't put a lot of stock in polls. And I've said before, and I know a lot of people will disagree with me, but I feel like the news media, they want Donald Trump back in the White House. Donald Trump is good for business. Donald Trump made a lot of people rich when he was in the White House. He gives them a lot of copy. Biden, Obama, they didn't give him a lot of copy. So, I don't put a lot of stock in the news media and what they report. A prime example is when Biden debated Trump, if you recall, right after the debate, all of the news medias were calling for Biden to step down. Biden is too old in this. Donald Trump got convicted of 34 felonies, sexual assault. Did you once hear the news media, Washington Post, New York Times, ask that Donald Trump should step down? So as I've said before, I don't put a lot of stock in polls and the news media.
Okay. All right. Anybody else before I move on to our next topic?
Hey, Gary, I'll jump out there real quick. Hey, look, I was in the barbershop recently. I don't have a lot of hair left, but I was in the barbershop trying to get tightened up. And I'm just going to tell you this, man. The barbers just think it's a joke that black men in America will, just in general, will not vote for Kamala Harris. Of course, they're going to vote for Kamala Harris. Who the hell you think we're voting for? That's what they said. Even the young ladies that we're working in the shop, of course, everybody in here for Harris. Where'd they get that poll? Like Mr. Spivey said, did they take it in Montana? They take it in Utah, where there's very few black people or black men at. I think we just have to be realistic about, again, like the polls, like was previously mentioned. And instead of going for polls, like you said, let's go to the heartbeat of a black city and community, and then take a pulse check, and then you'll get your real numbers and your real answers. So based on what I've heard in the barbershop recently, it ain't even gonna be close, at least in the areas represented by black men. So that's my take.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll say something too real quick, Gary.
Go ahead.
It's a big step forward, and I'm glad that you made the decision to do that on your platform, because you have such a broad and big platform. And I think that getting the name out there also, it brings into light Kamala Harris and what she's trying to do for black men. She came up with the list the other day of the economic plan that she has for black men. That when she gets into office, she'll execute and do. I think it was $1 million loan for black businesses, for black men, along with the others. It's a long list of that. We may talk about that tonight. But I think that, the media spends a lot and they just see what sticks to the wall. And this was something that stuck to the wall. Her as a prosecutor, yes, she prosecuted. She was just doing her job, following the law. And they turned that into a narrative, into a story where black men are not supporting her. And I think that is erroneously wrong, and it's something that they just wanted to throw to the wall and see if it was a stick. And it's just the wrong type of narrative. I mean, and I think the voters are smart enough to know this by now, especially in our community, to realize that now at this point, since we've seen the opposition and the true character of the opposition, and how he feels about minorities in general.
Okay. Well, on the website, in addition to the announcement of the endorsement, there is a new Kamala Harris resource page where people can just go, click, get information out there. A lot of that was inspired by Edward Sargent. I see Edward on the call, on the line with us. And so that's a good way for folks to just see for themselves. Go read the information, read the facts, read the data. If you're not clear about something on on her site or what her policy positions are, you can at least get some information on your own from the different resources. And that's also on the website.
Gary, this whole thing about her being a prosecutor has such racist overtones and undertones. Because what they're saying is that all black men are criminals. And so therefore, all black men will hate her because she prosecuted black men. It is so absurd. But we all know this, and we don't have to spend a lot of time on it. The fact of the matter is that this is a referendum. This election is a referendum. They say it's consequential, but it's a referendum on race and gender.
Okay, yeah. Edward, before I move on, you have anything you want to comment on? You're on mute, Edward. Get off mute, Edward. All right, we're gonna keep it moving. If you can't get off mute, we'll
Stuck
bring
on
you
mute.
back. Yeah. So he might be on his phone too.
Hey, Gary, that's some breaking news. I'm not sure if you're aware of this. Maybe it was your endorsement this morning, but a Republican has flipped to Democrat. Celebrity, a Republican celebrity, former governor of California, the governor, at 6:58 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, says he is voting for Kamala Harris and has made the announcement to his millions of fans. So the governor, maybe that makes the his in-laws or previous in-laws, the Kennedy family, happy. But he's coming back and he's voting for Kamala, even though he said he is not happy with either party. But Kamala Harris is his choice. Arnold Schwarzenegger. How about that?
Get to the chopper now. Get to the chopper.
That's right. You'll be back.
Good evening, gentlemen. Glad to be in your presence. I respect so much all of you. I like to have, actually, I want to challenge you, beg you. I don't beg, but I want to demand of you. Write into Gary's website and give your statement about this historic election, why you stand where you stand. I think, as you know, and I'm not a marketing person, but the more people get behind something, the more people want to get behind it, right? It's called a bandwagon. So if we could please get your comments in, maybe send your picture in. I'm really big on getting something marked in the sand, if you will, something, not the sand, but something against the wall. Gary, that's why I came to you. I said, well, the Washington Post, everybody's upset about the Washington Post. I used to be a Washington Post reporter. As far as I'm concerned, the white man can do what he wants to do with his newspaper. How dare I tell the white man or any man what to do with his business? That's number one. I respect people's ownership. So I'm not going to try to tell Bezos, hey, you need to endorse somebody, which is kind of disingenuous, because what the black reporters and others are saying, we want you to endorse Kamala, right? Now, you don't want somebody to do something that wouldn't benefit you. So it's totally disingenuous, but that's one thing. I kind of segued off of that. But I think it's important for us to get on the record. I think it's an opportunity. Leave something behind for your children. They say, yes, I was part of this. I stood on the right side, and here's my statement that I made, and it could make a difference. That's what I want to say to you, gentlemen.
Well said.
Oh, I'm at the library. I'm at DC Martin Luther King Library. Proud to be here. Yeah, there's something going on here.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Edward.
Thank you.
Lawrence Lucas and Dr. Wayman Henson and Stovall, part of the Justice for Black Farmers group. This election, either way, how does this impact Black farmers? And I'll start with you, Lawrence, just briefly, just give us your sense.
No, I want to go behind, I want Stovall to voice, he's a black farmer and he knows what the situation is. And Dr. Henson has been working with us and others around the country. So I kind of want them to take the lead. I'm kind of listening tonight.
All right, I got you. All right, well, Dr. Henson, we'll go with you. And if we can ever get Stovall off mute, then we'll get Stovall. But you are the man, Wayman Henson.
Well, I'm happy to be in the barbershop with you guys tonight. Just as long as I can walk in and y'all don't point me to the door, I'm happy just to sit down. And I got my hair cut today. It was about this long. And my wife said, before you get on the tube tonight, you need to get that mop cut. So here I am, hair and all. Yeah, so I've thought a lot about this question, and I'll try to be really brief. I think it would be one of the worst things under the sun for Black farmers, as I'm on the outside looking in, if the orange colored guy were to be elected president. We all have problems with whoever's who's ever in the big house, because we want people in the big house to say and do what we want them to say and do. Now, Lawrence and I have written a whole slew of letters to Vilsack, to Biden, and of late to Harris, and congressionals on, and nobody's really going to do what we want them to do, but we want to at least get our vote out there in the public. But if you want to look at any president who did a really poor job with Black farmers, take a look at Donald J. Trump. The USDA under Trump was far worse than under any of the previous Republicans. his henchman, Sonny Perdue, was absolutely awful. And Trump and Sonny Perdue dismantled the Office of Civil Rights, much like Reagan did back in 1981. And if you want to make somebody mad, talk about Reagan, because he's the legend and the hero of a lot of stuff for a lot of people. But he dismantled civil rights. And so Trump comes along and he dismantles it, and he gets slammed by Office of General Counsel, not Office of General Counsel, General Accounting Office, GAO, and some others for the poor way in which farmers were being dealt if they had a complaint against the USDA. So whether it's whether they got their loan on time or whether they got their case adjudicated properly, investigated, adjudicated, finalized, those things are really awful. And so when you look at what Trump is allegedly saying these days, he says, or at least RFK Jr. says he's going to put RFK Jr. over CDC, NIH, USDA. And here RFK is an idiot. He doesn't have a medical degree, so why is he going to be over anything to do with medical? He's not a farmer, so why would he want to be over anything to do with farming? But allegedly, he's going to be over like 5 entities. So if you want to run things in the ground in a hurry, I think you put something like RFK Jr. over some of those things. So I think he's a poor president. He's already shown it one time. He's going to come back and do it again. And what he's going to do, he's going to dismantle civil rights in such a way that whoever follows him is going to have to rebuild it. And Trump is anti-DEI, anti-CRT, is pro-MAGA, and you know they're opposed to diversity. That you got to be a bunch of white people to go to their conferences by and large. And you look at Trump supporters; they're known to sandbag really important things. So this guy, I'm blanking on his name right now. He was a lawyer for Trump, wrote a lot of the documents for Trump, and then once he gets out of office, because he has a law degree, he's involved in all these law firms around the country. So the 12 frivolous and racist lawsuits that were filed against the USDA, once the American Rescue Plan Act, that money was put out there. That guy was the lead dog on that sled to get all of those things in place so that at least one court will come along and say, no, you can't do this. So that's why, along with some things that Vilsack did to make sure that Black farmers didn't get their justice under the ARPA. And then they finally got something under the IRA, but they had a whole bunch of other farmers who looked like me and some other folks who were involved in that discrimination thing. So in a nutshell, I think it's going to be a really bad deal if Donald Trump gets elected president. Fighting against that to happen.
Okay, that's good. Ben, I want to come to you for a minute because you have your pulse. You're close to the ground with youth and students. I want to get you and followed up by CJ. How do you think this election is going to go? And what are you hearing from students on campus?
The Morgan students, you have to keep in mind, they're probably activists to start with. So they can't represent the average African-American their age, but they do have their ways of inspiring people off campus, young people off campus. And especially the women are active. They tend to go out and support Kamala. I had one that drove up to Pennsylvania to canvass for her. Another went down last night to DC. They want to get out of class for those things. I let them. But the fact that this man and his minions are interested in telling them what to do with their bodies, that is just a bridge much, much too far for them. I mean, it gets them angry. They love Kamala, no doubt about that. And they're proud of the fact that she went to an HBCU and she's making them proud. She's smart. She's everything that these young women would like to be one day. But this abortion issue, making decisions about their bodies, is something that they will not tolerate. That fires them up more than anything.
As well as should. Okay. CJ, what are you hearing with your age group?
Done for a lot of young voters in general, especially lately for Kamala's campaign. The past few weeks has been more focused on trying to get Republican support for whatever reason. But there's not a ton of enthusiasm. There are a lot of people in my age group that voted for Barack Obama the first time, so they don't have that wide-eyed enthusiasm that they had back then for that type of energy when the Democrats really had an opportunity with the supermajority to make a lot of sweeping changes and decided not to. And I think there's still some consequences from that from people like me, where Obama was the first time I was able to vote, and a lot of people were mobilized and very energized. And a lot of people saw how they decided to wield that power. In Obama's own words, he governed like a moderate Republican, and Kamala is offering to give a Republican a seat at the table in her administration and things like that, and going around campaigning with Liz Cheney and talking about how she has the support of Dick Cheney. So not really great appeal to young voters. Her support for fracking and genocide is not helping either. So I think there's a lot she could do that would be a lot better to reach young voters or progressive voters or people within her base, rather than kind of chasing the sane Republican and trying to turn the party into Bush's Republican Party from back in the day.
Well, CJ, I don't think that the left should behave like the Donald Trump right, being that it's going to be my way or the highway. And one thing that young people have to learn about politics is that it's part of the art of compromise. So Kamala, in order to get elected, she's going to have to find that sweet middle. That's the only way you get elected president in the United States. You have to find that sweet middle. And once you get in office, what you do, that becomes important as well, of course. But in order to get there, you're going to have to make compromises.
Well,
you can't go there to Washington and say, okay, it's all going to be my way now. You have to
think anybody was asking that or expecting that.
If you're going to get anything.
But CJ, here's the point. Having been in politics, it's very complex. Just because you got elected or something, and I was president of the school board, had no control. The bureaucracy runs it. And so here we have Obama coming in, cleaning up Bush's mess, $750 billion. And he has no support. What's the first thing they said? Mitch McConnell says, my job is to make his job unbearable.
One-term president. Make him a one-term president.
That's exactly what he said. And here's my point to young people. We hold our own people to such standards that we don't hold white people to. I think it's important for her to reach out. I think she needs to create a big tent. That's what Lincoln did. Probably the most radical Republican we ever had. His team of rivals, you neutralize people. Because what Trump is an empty vessel. Let's be very clear about who Trump is. He's an empty vessel. It's the people around him. Somebody used the word minions. It's the people around him. He's a useful idiot, and everybody's getting what they want out of it. All he wants is adoration. All he wants is to be told he's smart. So I think, CJ, as a young man, you have to clarify for people. Here's how it works. It's like that young man who watched the vice presidential debates, and he said, they have no power. And you got to understand, the president doesn't have a lot of power. He has influence, but he doesn't have a lot of power.
I hear that a lot when Democrats are president, but when Republicans are president, they have a ton of power. But when Democrats get into office,
they have the majority. When they have the majority, if you have the House and the Senate, brother, you can do a whole lot.
Right.
The Democrats have had the House and the Senate before and not done a whole lot, which is
they only had the House.
When did they have the House and the Senate?
They only had the House and the Senate. I did a civics lesson last week. They had the House and the Senate and the Senate the first 2 years Obama was in office.
I know.
After that, the Republicans controlled the House. CJ brought up a thing one time that he couldn't even get Merrick Garland confirmed. There was no way he was going to get it confirmed. The Republicans controlled the Senate and they controlled the House. If the Republicans control the Senate, which confirms presidential nominations, you're not going to get anything through there. I don't care if you kick and scream. And when you're dealing with somebody like Mitch McConnell, if he says he's not going to bring it to the floor, it's not coming to the floor. You
Exactly.
recently heard Kamala talk about the most effective immigration bill that has ever been produced. And Donald Trump picked up the phone and called the Speaker of the House and told him, do not bring it to the floor. If the Senate does not want to bring something to the floor, it's not coming to the floor. And if Kamala Harris goes into office and she wins, and the Republicans take over the Senate and the House, she's not going to get anything done unless she does, like Ben said, go across the aisle and try to negotiate.
Or executive orders.
Or executive order, but keep in mind, executive order can't change laws.
No, it doesn't change the law. But I'm saying she's hamstrung if she doesn't have the Senate and the House.
That's exactly right.
And let's not forget the filibuster. Because
That's exactly right.
She's
Okay.
already committed.
All I'm
all I'm
to
asking,
about the
CJ, all I'm
filibuster.
asking you to do, and I hear your point. You need to educate young people and old people like me. You need to say, okay, I'm not giving up. I'm just saying, fix this.
You know,
Fix
what
it.
young people need to understand, and I sound like an old man saying that, but it's a truism, it's human nature, that the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Cheney and Harris no doubt have a gentlewoman's agreement that let's get rid of the enemy through a united front, which is not unusual in warfare, that once enemies get together, form a united front in order to knock off one big enemy.
Called
And
Russia and the United States.
way things are as normal, but they have formed a united front against their common enemy.
Has anybody forgotten this? You know, we're talking about, first of all, I'm not going to criticize Obama on anything, because if for some of us who can remember this, there was a point in this country where it was impossible for a minority to become president. Anybody remember that? You know, who put Obama into office? In 2008, most of the people or the kids who were born in 1980 and after, okay, who were 18 to 28 years old, by the time that election came up, helped to put him in office, okay? He is, in my opinion, similar to Doug Williams winning the first Super Bowl. Doug Williams may not be in the Hall of Fame for his total career, but he had to show that he could get the job done at the highest possible level. Obama showed he could get the job done at the highest possible level, and he was reelected. Was he going to be a perfect president? Was he going to do all the things that we wanted him to do because he was the first Black president? No. But you know what? He represented well. He got reelected, and he laid the groundwork for other minorities to come along.
Yep.
So now you're looking at a situation with a minority female president who went to a vice president who went to an HBCU who could possibly become president. So I'm not going to criticize Obama on anything. Now we're talking about the Democrats overall. Okay. You know, bottom line is, hey, again, I agree that they have to find a sweet spot to get elected. You can't, you could say a lot of things because you have to say a lot of things to get elected. But once you get in there, it's a different story. And then circling back around to young people who helped put Obama in office, I just found a poll. And when I saw it, it was the Harvard Youth Poll. Okay. I sound like, oh my God, they're going to favor Trump in this. But they didn't. And I'm going to read a paragraph to you. It says, young Americans strongly favor Kamala Harris in the 2024 presidential race. But their decision to cast a ballot, check this out, may depend more on their friends than their politics. Okay. According to a new Harvard Youth Poll released today by the Institute of Politics, IOP, at Harvard Kennedy School, the survey finds Harris leading Donald Trump by 28 points among likely voters under the age of 30, 60% to 32%, while revealing that peer influence could be the key factor in youth turnout. 79% plan to vote when they believe their friends will, compared to just 35% when they think their peers won't participate. Does Beyonce make a difference? Does Taylor Swift make a difference? We'll find out, because according to this poll, if that's the case, young people again may put Kamala Harris into office the same way they did for Barack Obama.
Yeah.
CJ.
Yes.
Could you explain what your issue with Kamala is? If you have an issue, I may be assuming something.
The same issue I just have with a lot of the corporate politicians. It's not particularly Kamala, like I don't have any particular beef. She was anointed without a primary for a reason, because like I said, she's a standard Democratic corporate politician. It's not like she's a unique boogie woman or something like that. She has standard positions. She's having a very difficult time differentiating herself from Biden policy wise. I don't know why. It seems like an easy layup, as she came in with a lot of enthusiasm because she's not Joe Biden. She's younger. She could have carved out, a more progressive agenda that would energize the base. Again, similar to Obama. I go back to Obama because he won. It was a good strategy to appeal to your base. As you guys said, I think not just morally to be in the same bed as Dick Cheney is problematic, but I think it's a losing strategy. I think this is the Hillary Clinton strategy of 2016. And I don't think it's a smart strategy if you want to win. As much as we all may disagree on things at the panel, we want the same result. I think Donald Trump would be far worse for this country than Kamala Harris. So I rather would see her win, but I'm just not enthusiastic in my support. As you said, it's more of a strategic decision of who's going to be easier to organize under, because neither candidate seems to be in favor of ending this genocide or raising wages or doing a lot of the things that they are giving people a real healthcare system that doesn't rely on private insurance, bankrupting people for medical debt and things like that. So I think we need to organize against whoever's in the White House. Because I've seen Biden and Harris administration say they can't raise a minimum wage because of the Senate parliamentarian, and because I've seen the Democrats' inability to actually effectively wield power, even when she does have a good proposal, it does give me skepticism that she would fight and follow through for it, or even has a strategy to get it implemented without doing anything about the filibuster, what the Democrats say they're not going to do. So it's great that she has a plan, but there's no plan to get it implemented. And I've seen this over and over again from the Democrats. So again, I would love to be wrong and for her to, really make some changes from Joe Biden and, maybe move things in a direction that is more favorable to her
right.
base.
You are right. She will be vanilla for a while. And once she's elected, day one, her next goal is to get reelected her second year. If she has any radicalism in her, any progressiveness in her, you'll see it in a second term.
Yep. When she
One
becomes
thing-
a duck.
Not holding my breath for that.
I don't know if I want to wait that long,
Yeah.
second term.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like that's a lot to ask. And
Yeah.
again, I think people should
Hey,
demand
guys.
something for their votes instead of just this vote blue no matter who. I think gets dangerous, as every election is a referendum against Trump, and every election is a referendum against whoever the next Trump is, and we get to the bottom of the barrel of these candidates. I'm sorry for whoever loves Joe Biden, but for a second term, that was insane to try to trot him out and weekend at Bernie's him through an entire campaign cycle. I don't know what they were trying to do with that. So, and again, it's just like, well, you got to vote for the guy who doesn't know what time it is or what state he's in because Trump. And now we're getting that. Well, yeah, she's campaigning with Dick Cheney saying, things like that, but Trump. And yeah, she's still supporting this genocide, which again, an arms embargo could win the election, not because of some great progressive policy, but it's because over 80% of her voter base wants it. You want to energize your voters to go vote for you. So again, it's not just because I'm some progressive lefty that wants pie in the sky results. I actually would like to just see her win. And if she wins, we have a better chance of getting something. But there is no progressive candidate, and anybody that seems even concerned about the concerns of young people in the race.
CJ, the two political parties are given to us, the voters, as entertainment. The country is controlled by oligarchs. You're seeing it now. The billionaires. They decided to come out of the shadows and say, look, we run this. You can elect somebody. You have every 4 years, you have the opportunity to elect somebody to misrepresent you. But we control. And I hear we act like she could do this. She could do it. She can't do diddly shit. Okay.
Hey CJ, I'm gonna back you up, man. One thing you said that stuck out to me is that you said that we are going to have to organize no matter who gets into office. And I think that is so timely, is that if Donald Trump does win, God forbid, it's going to force not only young people, but old people and the like to organize and to fight for our rights. Because at that point, if he gets in, what he plans to do, some of the stuff I don't even want to repeat is what he wants to do, but you can look it up. But yeah, one of the criticisms, I should say, with Kamala Harris is that I've heard that her response, her messaging doesn't get across to young people, like you said. and what their needs and wants are, that her responses are sort of canned responses. And the responses are not, and I'll say this, the reason why Donald Trump sort of captivates the masses or his base is because he kind of thinks like the regular Joe Blow with limited amount of education and just spewing off of the mouth. And people kind of hear that messaging instead of hearing it from a trained, prosecutor. Donald Trump just says, yeah, I don't like that shit. Yeah, we're going to change this. And they're like, oh, wow, I've never heard that from a president before. That's why he's sort of captive. He's a master marketer, but he's a sleazy salesman. So we have to then look back and say, all right, do we want a sleazy salesman who's going to sell the rest of the country off once he gets in? Or do we want a trained, polished politician? And we can fight the good fight after Kamala gets in. We can organize and we'll have the time. We'll have the 4 years to get, what's critical also is down ballot. Because if she gets in, she got 4 years. And when she gets in, like somebody said, she's going to be campaigning again in the next year for re-election. But we have to be diligent and proactive down ballot and in the county registers and in the local elections, so we can have that message that CJ, you're coming across with to the young people to get energized, to get into politics. And when I see a lot of young people getting into politics right now. Yeah. So if we continue that momentum, let's look at the greater goal is to get her in so we can continue the work that's going on down ballot.
What I like about CJ is he keeps us honest. Because we're all enthralled. We're all excited. And we're painting a perfect person. She's not a perfect person. I'm not a perfect person. Nobody on this screen is a perfect person. So what CJ is saying is, okay, let's not get overwhelmed by this. Let's keep a perspective on it. I got a perspective. I was CJ in a prior incarnation. I was outside. I was a radical. I came inside, still being a radical. But I had to adjust to how these internal levers work and which ones to pull. I want you to stay suspicious. I want you to keep us honest. Let's just keep us honest. But remember this, I would rather have her in the White House than him. That's the bottom line. And that's what you said.
This is we agree upon the conclusion, like I said.
Yeah, that's what you said. But I'm saying, keep us honest. Because that's what I did as a youth. I kept us honest.
The conservative right take its strategy for power, and they were very effective at it. The conservative right, through the American Exchange, ALEC, American Exchange Council, they decided they would go for city council seats, school board seats. They would work their way up, judge seats, and they were very patient. They've been doing it for 30 years. We're seeing the results of it now, but that has always been, that was a civil rights strategy if they had the opportunity. That was the left strategy when they had the opportunity. The right was effective with it because they put a lot of dollars behind it. And I believe that young people who consider themselves left, they have to do the same thing. State assembly seats, school board seats, and be patient about the process. And eventually you will have your own weight of willpower. Similar to what they're doing to us right now.
I am 86 years old. And I understand and I agree with CJ. CJ has seen some of the things that you all have not seen. CJ has seen the lack of accountability. He's seen the lack of justice. He's also seen the lack of transparency. And he's also seen the lack of justice. And he's seen the lack of justice of abuse of white women in the Forest Service, the U.S. Department of Agriculture. He's seen the discrimination of Black farmers. We speak about the wisdom of waiting. The gentleman said, I don't want to wait a second term, and I don't want to wait another day for the justice for Black people in this country. We speak, and I hear the tone of, we are concerned about the middle class. Black farmers, there are very few people on this screen are more than 2 generations from being a farmer. So why are we live in urban America, but we are lost in urban America because one of the reasons why things are happening and we question, and CJ, and I agree with him, and we don't want to question Kamala Harris and hold her to the same level or degree as Obama or someone else. And I'm going to go back again, Davis. I don't want to wait or see another day, much less a second term. We want to see the same effort that's made on behalf of white farmers, giving billions of dollars, but instead, under this administration, and under the Obama administration and under the Trump administration, Black farmers has lost billions of acres over the years. And it's still happening with the U.S. Department of Agriculture under this administration. So I'm 86 years old and I don't want to wait another day. I support and I understand what CJ is saying and his skepticism. But the same skepticism that CJ has is the same skepticism that I have. And it's not about age, it's about knowledge and understanding what is going on in our political environment and not getting pulled into a sieve of us now wanting to agree with each other. I don't want to agree with you if you are not going to, or administration that's not willing to give the same benefits to Black farmers as they give white farmers. I don't want to see another Black farmer lose their land. And by the way, I've been president of this organization since 1984. The only administration that cared about Black farmers, that put the rubber to the road, was the Clinton administration. We have had Tom Vilsack, who gives billions of dollars to white farmers, and I think Dr. Hinson can support me on this, but turn around and not give the same benefits to Black farmers. White farmers got some in the billions of dollars and during the COVID relief. Black farmers got 1% of that amount of money. 1%.
White farmers got 99%, Lawrence.
Yeah. So what we are saying is, I think that we should hold, and another thing, and CJ, I do believe that humanity, we should not use our humanity because of politics and what color the person's going to be to walk into that office. We should understand what's going on in Gaza. We give millions of dollars to Ukraine, and at the same time take the land and don't give Black farmers the same benefits and programs that white farmers get. That's under this administration. And don't get me wrong, Trump was no better, but we expected more from Obama and we got less. So I think that we need to really ante up here and listen to the CJs and the people who disagree, because everybody's not at the same level. And I'm not at Morgan State, but there's not a day that I go by that I don't read something or hear something from a Black farmer or an abused woman in the Forest Service in the Western region. These are the things that CJ and I look at. And we want more accountability. We want more transparency. We also want more justice. So we have to understand that we need to hold, and let me go back on this thing with our Black leadership when it comes to Black farmers. If we had the support from the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, if we had the necessary support from our congressional representatives, instead of worrying about their positions and their monies and their titles, and what social events that they're going to be invited to the next day. So, gentlemen, I understand what CJ is talking about, and I'm 86 years old, and I've seen it, and I've seen the experience, and I've seen the pain and suffering of Black farmers. I've seen the pain and suffering of women being raped, being denied the same opportunity. And under this administration, in the U.S. Department of Agriculture, under this administration, and I'll say this again, the only administration that has shown any, what I consider any consideration and did something about the systemic problem at USDA is the Clinton administration.
Mr. Lucas, I don't think anyone disagrees with CJ in terms of the goal, the strategies. That's where the differences come in. You talk about what you want and what CJ wants, and even what I want. But what this country respects is what you're going to take. Barack Obama wanted to be president, and he decided to take the presidency. That's the only way you're going to get respect in this country. You have to figure out how you're going to take power, because power doesn't seed itself. You need a strategy for taking it. And the plight of Black farmers, and my great-grandfather, my grandfather, they lost their property. I just visited in Louisiana about 2 months ago. And I know that pain. I have to read about that pain when I do my research. It hurts a lot what was taken away from them. But this idea of Black farmers, I remember back in right after I got out of college in the early 80s, it was an issue then, but it was a muted issue within the Reagan administration. They used it as a public relations ploy to say that they were helping when they really weren't helping. The numbers of farms kept going down, and they continue to this day. I agree. The farmers, CJ, the left, we all need a strategy for taking power. That's the only way you're going to get respect in this country. You have to have a strategy like Obama to take power. He wasn't perfect. He did set up an architecture for other African Americans to take power, and it's being used to this day. But I just can't get into wanting that much. You have to get into the mood of taking. What's your strategy for taking?
We also have to realize that we're not a monolith. Every time I get Black people together, everybody has a set of issues and values that are close to them as Black people. We probably need what the Black Panther Party did, a 10-point program. What are the most critical things that are impacting us as a Black community? Then we need to talk about a Black budget. Where do we want resources to go to address these issues? Because a budget is nothing but a statement of values. What I value is what I fund. So I think this conversation is revealing the fact that there are a lot of interests that Black people have. And sometimes we conflict with each other. So we have to prioritize what those interests are. My wife was born on a 250-acre farm in North Carolina, 13 kids. I said, well, the only way you could have employees is to have kids, something that big. But, you know, somebody said it, farming is 2 generations away from everybody on the screen. So anyway, again, I'm gonna say it. I said this to CJ, and I thought I came through. I support you, man. I'm just saying you got to support me, because as my mom used to tell me when I got smart with her, keep on living.
You know what? This is a very revealing conversation. I'm glad that we got people here to have it. In the time that we have left, we probably have to have a follow-up. I'm going to fast forward, ask each of you to think about this. It's November 5th. You're getting ready to go to bed. What was your day like, Kwame Salter, on that day, on November 5th? What's your day like on November 5th?
Oh, I already voted. So
all right.
I'll be predicting what the percentage outcome will be. I'm thinking she's going to get like 51.5% of the vote.
Okay. Richard Brown, you getting ready to put your PJs on. What's going on November 5th? How you feeling?
Oh, I already voted, man. I'm sipping a cognac and you know, getting ready for bed, you know, a little nightcap, you know, toasting up the victory, you know.
Okay. I voted yesterday myself. So yeah, Carlos, what you got?
Hey, look, myself and my wife have already voted, but I tell you, on November 5th, I'm going to be, hopefully celebrating like to that narrow margin. I do believe in the Black community is going to be overwhelming for Harris, but overall, it's going to be, a very tight race that Kamala Harris will win. But I think something we haven't thought about, considering Donald Trump's leadership
Proclivity.
in a negative way, are we going to see another insurrection after he loses? And God forbid it's not close in his favor. How will his supporters react? Well, either way, if it's close or not close, how will they react if he does not win? I think that's going to be the big question because, I said it before. I said whoever Trump's campaign manager was up until the Biden debate, they were masterful because Trump didn't attack Biden's age. He just sort of let Biden do his own thing. He won the debate, and they were so confident that Trump had the race, they didn't even think that the Democrats would replace him. The Democrats may have pulled the greatest comeback in political history by replacing a president. Not a candidate, the president, and putting in the vice president with a Hail Mary. Well, I guess Hail Mary's passes in Washington sometimes work. You don't think they're going to work, but we saw one last Sunday. And we might see another one come through this Tuesday. This will be the greatest upset in presidential history or campaign history if this happens. And I think it is going to happen, but I don't know how his supporters are going to react. And I hope the country does not have an insurrection happen. So that's where my thoughts are at.
Dr. Henson, what say you?
Well, I'm going to be kind of divided that night. I'm going to be really jazzed that Kamala has won. And then on the other hand, I'm going to be anxiously awaiting what the white Christian nationalist Trump supporters are going to do, because as I read them and I read what they say, and I'm wondering, why do people who are Christ followers, why do they vote for that fool? Those people are really, really angry. They believe that he was screwed last time. They do not believe in this 21 court cases and this, that, and the other. They believe it was a conspiracy to make sure he lost and that Biden won. So I'm going to be anxiously awaiting to see what in the world those people are going to do, because I think they're going to do something, and it's not going to be pretty.
Okay. Lawrence Lucas, November 5th.
I've always said to the people I talk to, I don't see how Trump can win. But I've listened and read, and I see the same things you all see out there. And I come back to a statement I heard not too long ago. This is us.
Okay.
Go
ahead, Kwame.
I just don't want us to release into the universe this idea there will be violence. I'm pragmatic. I understand that. But I think our energy is more powerful than their energy. I think evil is on the run. I really do. We're at a critical point of inflection. The way we think, we don't give power or energy to negativity.
Okay. All right. Mr. Spivey.
Wow. Well, my wife and I are TV people. So November the 5th, on Tuesday night, we'll be looking at the FBI's, the FBI International,
Tuesday night.
and the FBI. But I voted by mail a couple of weeks ago. That night before I go to bed, I'm gonna probably say a prayer because I'm overly concerned. Kwame said something earlier, and a lot of people are not aware, but he said only a handful of people run this country, and that's that top, 1% or whatever. I'm very concerned that I'm very concerned that we will not have another Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump fiasco, because I looked at 60 Minutes on Sunday, and they had a lady on there who was running I think it was in Iowa, Indiana, or somewhere, and she's running again. She was in the political process and in the counting of votes back when Donald Trump lost before. And she talked about how they threatened her and she had to move her family. But at the same hand, she said, the lady who is running this time, who is projected to win, she's one of the people who was a denier. And I'm concerned that these people have people that they have placed in strategic places to try to upset this election and the certification of the election. But I truly hope that Donald Trump does not win this election and Kamala Harris does win. And not to take up too much time, but one of the things that CJ said about Obama and what he did when he was in office, Lucas can probably relate to what I'm going to say, but I did my research. Y'all call me the researcher. And I was doing my research with the Black farmers. And I was very surprised that this guy, Thomas Vilsack, he was appointed under Obama. And he's been in the administration under Obama. He's been in the administration under Biden, and he's still in the administration, and he's a Democrat. But he has really and truly shown that he has no respect for the Black farmers, and he's not going out of his way to help them. A lot of people don't realize when they came up with the loans for the Black farmers, what they did was, it reminded me back of the old days when they were trying to keep Blacks from voting. The loan application that Millsap and them developed for Black farmers was 40 pages. Can you imagine people who are not, 40 pages, you can have a PhD and it'd be difficult for you to fill out. And they did things like that. And then also during the coronavirus funds that they were going to distribute, Black farmers are 5% of the population. They only gave loans to 1% of the Black farmers. And so what CJ is saying with Obama, if Kamala Harris goes back in, I would expect her first order of business to replace Thomas Vilsack and start doing something to right the ship with the Black farmers. So I'm going to say a prayer. I'm not an overly religious person, but I'm a bedside Baptist. I do watch service on Sunday mornings, but I'm going to say a prayer, and hopefully she wins and that she will do the right thing.
Okay. CJ, November 5th.
When we talk about strategy, I think as was mentioned by Mr. Davis before, I think this is kind of what it comes back to. I think we should do more than just hope Kamala does the right thing when she gets back in office. We should do the things to try to pressure her to do the right things. I think people should withhold their votes for something, which has happened before. But if you continue to vote for people who are unresponsive to your needs, it shows that they can get your vote without catering to your needs, and they're going to continue to do that, as the Democratic Party has done that, as long as there's a worse boogeyman on the other side, which is always going to be a Trump or the next Trump, or whoever his heir apparent is going to be. So I just want to caution people for that. I hope I'm wrong. I hope she does do some things.
You're right, young man. You're right. That's why I say we need a 10-point program. Give it to her. Hold her accountable. This is what we need as Black people.
Yeah, and again, like I said, it's just a matter of strategy. I think trying to turn the Democratic Party into the Republican Party with a Scooby-Doo mask on is not a smart strategy to energize your Democratic base. So I think, and again, I think having the U.S. taxpayer fund 70% of Israel's genocide is a red line for a lot of people, and voting her into office without her changing that position creates somewhat of a mandate for mass murder of children, which is, again, I know we could talk strategy. I know Trump is no better and will likely be worse on that issue. But again, I don't think it's an issue that a lot of people, parents like myself, when I have to see exploded children on my timeline every day, that we're funding, I think that's just a red line for some people and a very avoidable mistake. All she has to do is say, okay, I know Joe Biden is a dedicated Zionist. When I get into office, I will support an arms embargo and just try to pressure Israel to just to comply with international law. I'm not even trying to say
who
pie
the
in the
world,
sky things.
you know the world's largest exporter of arms?
It's obvious. It's
us.
Yes, we are the
So-
empire of
so
war.
I'm
I think
going
it's
back
something
to
that
the
needs to be
money.
addressed.
I'm going back to the money. We're not going to export it. They're making money. And I agree with you. It's horrendous. But we're the
Okay.
largest exporter of arms.
Chauncey Dunham, you want in on this November 5th?
I already voted. And the one thing I will say, I could look at a lot of sides of this conversation. After spending 40 years in the federal government, I understand very well how the House and the Senate works. I understand the power or the lack of power that a president has. Therefore, it's going to be very interesting. But the worst case scenario is if Trump does get it and he gets killed, look at your vice president.
Oh, Lord.
Woo!
I
Drop
knew
the
I'd
mic.
start a whole new
Drop the mic.
conversation with that
Just
Yeah,
drop
that's
the mic. Just drop
Drop
the
the mic moment. Yeah. Ben Davis, it's November
Yeah.
5th.
November 5th, I will be working with students all day doing our own election coverage. I just got back from voting before this call, and I just want to remind people what I think in the back of my mind at the time about Kamala is that she's from Oakland. And you know, people from Oakland, they just hold on to their roots. And I think that there is some spook who sat by the door in her, but she has debts to pay off first. She'll have to pay off those debts, but I can see her remaining true to the Oakland type of mentality that African Americans or Blacks from there have. And it is radical. If you want to know why all of the bombing in Gaza and Lebanon has picked up, Netanyahu is anticipating her getting elected. So
Right.
he's going to try to bomb the hell out of things before she gets in, because she will definitely pull back. Not to the degree that a lot of people want, but she's going to basically tell him, we're going to stop sending arms over to you if you don't change your behavior. It won't be the same as we've seen in past years. But I think that there's some spook who sat by the door in her, and it will come out. I think she's going to win by a landslide. I think it's going to be very decisive because the pollsters made adjustments for the misses they had with Donald Trump the first time around. They didn't see the votes coming his way. So they tweaked the system a little bit, and that's part of the factor that I don't think is going to work in their favor. They still don't know how to accurately poll young people, and they don't know how to poll anger. There are a lot of angry women out there, African American, especially Caucasian women. And I think for that reason, I think the polling is off. It's always off, but I think it's really going to be off, and I think she's going to win decisively.
I agree with you. I think it's going to be a very decisive win in her favor.
Can I ask
and
a
I said-
question?
Yes, sir.
If she wins, we're going to have a problem. If she loses, we're going to have a problem.
Yeah,
White
absolutely.
folks
It's
are
going to be
coming
a
either way
sequel,
it goes.
Mhm.
sequel to January 6th.
You got it. You got it.
Did I leave anybody out before we?
Stovall.
Stovall,
No.
yeah, but Stovall, are you off mute now, or you've been communicating with thumbs up? I get that. Can you talk now? No, he still can't talk. All right, but we've been getting the thumbs up, so I know we got you. I didn't,
Dr. Henson wanted to see if he thinks.
Gary, can I say one thing?
Go ahead.
There's a letter that Lawrence and I have written to Ms. Harris, try to in some way to kind of get our foot in the door, dependent upon her winning. And if you go to Black Men in America and look up Kamala Harris, you'll see the letter that we wrote. And there's a list of grievances that we have, a list of expectations that we have. And one of them is that we tell her that we really want her to accept Tom Vilsack's resignation. I'm not sure exactly, Lawrence, how we said that, but get rid of him, get somebody in place who understands farming, understands Black farming, and who will treat everybody equally regardless of the color of their skin. But that letter, I think, will be one of several that Lawrence and Wayman will be writing to Ms. Harris. And it'll be a miracle today that we get a call from her, but that's what we're hoping.
Okay.
Look at that letter, see what you think about it.
Yeah, it's on the website.
On the website, yeah.
Look, I can't thank you all enough. This has been a really, really thought-provoking show.
I felt like I was in the barber shop.
Yeah, I love the fact that we were all
That's how I
here.
acted.
Yeah, I
You know,
love
there
this.
was one suggestion made that I totally agree with.
What's
And
that?
that's everybody that's on this call. Write something to blackmenamerica.com.
Yeah, you can just go in the comment section and write it. Yeah, we'll post it. Gentlemen, I can't thank you enough. This is truly a Thought Brothers show, you know, where we have all of these different perspectives and opinions, and this show will be up within 48 hours. I'll make sure you all get the link. My name is Gary Johnson. On behalf of the people here on this panel, we are the Thought Brothers, and until next week, we are out of here. Gentlemen,
Take
hang on
care,
for a second.
everyone. Vote.
I'm American. I'm American. I'm American. I'm American.
Let me help you in here. Until women can get equal pay for equal work, this is not my America. Until same gender-loving people can be who they are, this is not my America. Until black people can come home from a police stop without being shot in the head, this is not my America. Until poor whites get a shot at being successful, this is not my America. I can't hear nobody talking to me.
Just love me, baby. Love me for who I am. Fallen angels, sing and clap your hands. Don't try to take my country. I will defend my land. I'm not crazy, baby. No, I'm American. I'm American, yeah.
Until Latinos and Latinas don't have to run from wars, this is not my America. But I tell you today that the devil is a liar, because it's gonna be my America before it's all over.
Please sign your name on the dotted line.